Hello and welcome back. In this short video, our focus will be on talking about the scatter plot, right? We've dealt with other types of plots. We've talked about the area, donut, pie, bar, line charts in previous videos. In this one, let's quickly talk about a scatter plot. Now, as you can see, well, I've stated that a scatter plot in Google Sheets is a useful way to visualize how two variables are related. So whenever you're interested in seeing the relationship between two variables, then what should come to your mind is creating a scatter plot. It shows individual data points as dots on a grid with one variable on the horizontal axis and the other on the vertical axis. Scatter charts are often used to spot connections, patterns, and trends in data, and meanwhile, it is used for continuous numerical data. Let's see how to apply this or how to create scatter plots in Google Sheets. Get back to our dataset VG sales. Thankfully, from our dataset, we have quite a number of continuous numerical data. All of these sales, they are continuous numerical data. If your interest is to check out the relationship between NA sales and EU sales, the question you might want to ask is, are these two sales related? Do they have any correlation at all? Is an increase in one sales in a region going to suggest an increase in the other sale or vice versa? If I create the relationship, a scatter plot between NA sales and JP sales, will I find any positive correlation or not? Let's see how to answer those questions by creating the charts. Okay, I'll select the first column, which is column G, which stores NA sales, and select the second column, column H, which stores EU sales. Then head over to insert menu and select chart, and automatically Google Sheets will create a chart for me, but this time around it created a column chart, which is not the chart of interest. Come over to the chart type and scroll down to scatter plots or scatter charts. As you can see from the scatter chart, when you click on it, it creates a scatter chart for us with these two series. Okay, let's quickly show those series before I come back to that setup. I want to see the uh, the axis tie 2. I want to see the horizontal axis tie 2 and the vertical axis tie 2. Okay, so yep, let's just leave this for now. We'll come back to this later and talk about the setup. Now back to the setup. We have combined ranges horizontally, and you can combine ranges vertically, you can combine ranges horizontally. So this is combining ranges vertically, but we want those two ranges to be combined horizontally. Okay, so one of the cells is presented at the vertical axis, the other cells presented at the horizontal axis. And we do not want to compute the aggregates this time around, we just want the data points. All right, the next thing we want to see is how to insert trend and all of those interesting stuffs that one can get from a scatter plot. Let's get back to customize. When you head over to series, under series, you can change the color. Okay, you can change the color if you like. You have this color. Sorry about that. I don't want to choose that. Done. So customize. Let's get back to customize. Okay. Nope. I don't want anything. Let us go ahead and choose a color. Get back to customize and choose series. So I can change this color to this, right? And you can change it to any color of your choice to this, just to see how those dots are presented, right? So that is one. Next, you can come increase the opacity or decrease the opacity of the circles. Do you see how that is how that affects the circle. You can choose the pixel, the circle size to make it smaller, 2 pixel or 7 pixels, and so on and so forth. All right, that is not my interest. Now, if I want to see a trend, I want to see the trend. So are these two things actually related? Of course, I can see that it's the circles, the trend is just going this way, it's going up. Now, whenever you have a trend that comes from bottom left to top right like this, we say those two quantities that generate that scatter plot are actually positively correlated, which means that as one quantity increases, it suggests an increase in the other quantity. To see that clearly, we can add the trend line. By adding the trend line, this suggests that, oh, yes, indeed, these two quantities are positively correlated. So, what that will imply is that as the EU sales increases, there's going to be a corresponding increase in the NA sales. So, if you have sales in these different regions and you have an increase in EU sales at some particular time, then automatically you'll be guaranteed that okay, there's going to be a corresponding increase in the NA sales, even if the values may not necessarily be the same, even if the amount of sales you have for these two regions are not the same, but an increase in one sale we suggest an increase in the other. That is what this trend tells us. And we can also compute a kind of correlation coefficients. You can also show an equation that can allow us to make a kind of prediction of the amount of sales for for SA, for NA sales given the EU sales. You know that the EU sales is series, right? So we can use this EU sales to make a forecast or if a prediction of the NA sales. I'll show you how to do that really quick. Getting back to the series, when you scroll down, you have the type. So this is a linear, of course, linear trend. You can create an exponential trend, polynomial trend, logarithmic trend, power series, and moving average. But we just want the linear trend. Let's leave it at linear because this correlation suggests kind of linear relationship. Okay, and let's come over to the label. So we can have equation. I can show you the equation of this line, which will enable us make predictions. Once I use the equation, you have this. So you can see that the EU sales is it appeared the EU sales appeared at the top, right? Which means that given the EU sales, the x-axis here represents the EU sales. Given the EU sales, you can predict the NA sales, right? Right? You can predict the NA sales given the EU sales. Or I think it's the other way around. So the EU sales is equal to this equation. So given the NA sales, you can predict the EU sales. So if NA sales is say 0.5, for instance, when you put in 0.5 here, multiply by 0.475 and add 0.0208, you get the EU sales. Does that make sense? Also, if you have zero sales for the NA sales, that means you would always have a constant of 0.0209 sales for the EU sales. So this equation is the regression equation that can allow you solve or estimate or forecast and the EU sales given NA sales. Isn't this awesome? This is the power of Google Sheets, right? Let's get back to series. And I can also show you a correlation coefficient, that is a value that tells you how strongly related these two quantities are. All right, the two sales are. And that is right here. It says show R squared. What did I click on? I think I clicked on the error bars mistakenly. Let's go and undo that action. So where is it? Series. Let's get back to series and data labels. No, I clicked on data labels mistakenly. I do not want the data labels. All right, so use R squared. And once I select this checkbox, you can see that the R squared is also created or generated for us. So the values of R squared here represents the correlation coefficients, and I'm sure that it is the Pearson correlation coefficient that has been calculated. Then the values of correlation coefficients ranges from -1 to +1. So if any value is between -1 to -0.5, it means that they are strongly negatively correlated, which means that As one quantity is increasing, the other one is decreasing, right? That is for negative correlation. Now, if the value is between negative zero point 0.5 to 0, it means that they have a weak negative correlation. And if the value is between from 0 to zero point 0.5, it means they have weak positive correlation. But between zero point 0.5 to 1, they have strong positive correlation. So from this value, 0.589, this suggests that they have a kind of a little bit strong. It's actually, it falls within the strong region, right? But I don't want to be very emphatic about the strong, because it's not above zero point 0.6, but it's something around zero point 0.6 approximately. So I can say that these two quantities are fairly strong. They have fairly strong positive correlation, which suggests that this equation is actually a valid equation for our predictions, right? Not necessarily valid, but actually strong equation that gives you a predicted value for the EU sales given NA sales. And this shows that they are indeed they are indeed related, in the sense that as you have an increase in NA sales, there's also going to be a corresponding increase in EU sales. So this is some of the concepts that you need to learn under statistics, because if you have all of this statistical background or knowledge, you become a very good data analyst. Thankfully, we shall treat some basic statistics before you wrap up your course with us at DataFight Academy. All right, so this is all about scatter plot. I believe you've learned a lot. We are going to rename this scatter plots. I believe you learned a lot about scatter plots and you enjoyed this lesson. And this will be the last video for this module. We'll see you again in the next module. Do have a wonderful day and enjoy yourself. Goodbye.